So, yes, we got a full house. We got lots of y'all signed up for this. So I know the recording is going to be popping. But for those of you here, this is where the juice is because I'm going to make some time at the end for questions, reflections, comments, concerns, any of that. Especially like I see we got lots of pregnant mamas happening. And like I said, this is the month, y'all. Like I just launched this BirthFit Blueprint membership, and this has been since February. And I got about 5 mamas right now. 2 have already had their babies last week, and I'm waiting on 3 more in the group. So 'tis the season. I love it. I love it so much. Okay, we're going to review the BirthFit Basics, at least majority of them. And then we're going to talk about products I love. And why is that not working that way? Immersive. There we go. And yeah, time for Q&A at the end. So let's get rolling. Hopefully that's the same. Okay. And if you have questions, throw them in the chat box. I will get to them at the end. I will pay attention to the time. I will check in. Let me put that timer down there. Okay, so going over the BirthFit Basics, what I'm going to do is show you a movement. I'm going to demo the movement like 2 to 4 reps, and then I'm going to give you some time to do it. I know nobody has their video on right now, but if you would like to turn your video on, that would be amazing. Because what I do inside the membership class is when we do mindset and movement or any sort of movement for the day, I give feedback. And I'm looking in the screen like this, and it's really an amazing experience. So if you want some feedback, turn on your screen and I will do my best to give you 2D virtual feedback. But yeah, that's how the class is going to roll. So what are the BirthFit Basics? The BirthFit Basics are 15 movements and poses. Movements and poses. And these are based on developmental kinesiology and as well as other functional movements. Functional range conditioning was a big player in my education. So you'll see the range of motion stuff. That all plays a role into this. For those of you that are newer to developmental kinesiology, I'm not going to dive into it completely, but it's the study of following a baby from infancy to their bipedal locomotion. And we are weight-bearing mammals that walk on 2 feet. And we all go through these same developmental milestones in order to figure out this walking thing, this weight-bearing thing. And one of the cool fun facts that if you've heard me talk before, you've heard me say this, but babies are born with diastasis rectus abdominis, that ab separation down the linea alba. And they approximate this on their own without any, mummy tummy program. They do this by going through the developmental milestones in that sequential order. So those of you that are chiros or PTs or, in that world, professional world, y'all know how important it is for babies, for small humans to go through these developmental milestones. It's not as important if they hit them, on the designated timing, like, okay, crawling at 8 months, 9 months, whatever, walking 12 months. What's the most important is that they go through this in that sequential order. And if they don't, then we kind of like, if you have a 3rd baby, 4th baby, they usually try to keep up with the olders. And so you might find them pulling themselves up before they can even crawl. So this is where we encourage the whole family to get back down on the floor and show them how to crawl, because we want them to go through those developmental milestones in that sequential order. Okay, so BirthFit Basics are based on these milestones, these functional movements, some functional range conditioning theories, ideas. And that's where they come from. You can find all of the BIRTHFIT Basics for free on YouTube. You know, I can't trademark, copyright it, BIRTHFIT, but you can't trademark a movement, right? Like the jumping jack is out there. And also, I want you to have this information. I think the BIRTHFIT Basics are foundational human movements that every human being should be able to do once they learn it, to their grave. Once they learn it, to their grave. Could be 2 reps, 4 reps, 10 reps a day, 20 reps a day. It's going to look different. And yes, there's absolutely going to be a few modifications here and there for pregnancy or early postpartum. So let's get rolling. And the other thing I'll say, I'm going to start seated right here. Hopefully you can hear me, is inside of the poses, that's where we usually diaphragm breathe. Inside of the movements, that's where you start to cultivate and practice a stability breath. And so we're going to start with just those 2 breaths. I'm going to sit up on a block. I'm actually going to take my top off so you can see a lot, because I always, like when we were at seminars, people would always ask, what's this? What's your thing doing? Whatever. So here we go. We're going to start with the diaphragm breath. And in order to find access, full range of motion of your diaphragm breath, I want you to be seated with your rib cage on top of your pelvis, or I want you to be lying supine, and I'll give you that demo too. So supine, like so, knees bent, or they can be up on a box or something with your knees out slightly. Those are 2 really good options that I found for teaching the diaphragm breath. If you are a professional and you keep people on your table, like chiropractic or PT, keep them on the table, knees bent, and then we start diaphragm breathing after the adjustment or during the adjustment, whatever works for you. All right, so we got our rib cage stacked on top of our pelvis. We have found our pelvic neutral. So check in. Is your belly button, your flashlight and your belly button pointing straight, or is it pointing up, or is it pointing down? Or another analogy, if you have a big old Texas belt buckle, is that pointing straight, down, or up? You're going to play with that and make sure that your pelvic bowl is not dumping water out the front or the back. So you're finding your pelvic neutral here. I want you to close your eyes for this and simply take 3 breaths. You're going to breathe in, expand your rib cage laterally, like go out the sides as best you can for 3 breaths. And on the exhale, whatever happens, happens. So try that. All right. Now we're starting to slow down a little. Okay, so if you got any feedback, you can throw it in the chat. You can unmute yourself, whatever works. I'll ask for feedback where you can raise your hand. Diaphragm breathing. When you inhale, your diaphragm and your pelvic floor work together. Everything naturally lowers and expands on the inhale. On the exhale, everything naturally returns back to neutral. There's no pulling in, sucking in, nothing. So I want you to try 3 more with that visualization. And you're expanding your rib cage 360 degrees. So let's try 3 more. Ready, set, go. And then just make note. Did that feel any different, same, better, worse? What was happening? The last thing I'm going to let you in on is a little feedback tool. So if you work inside of an office, you might have those TheraBands or those elastic bands. You can tie those around, like loosely tie around the bottom of somebody's rib cage, Or you can say breathe into the bottom strap of your sports bra. Or you can take your hands, take the base, the palms of your hands, go right under your armpits on the bottom of your rib cage and just lay them down. And then put your thumbs behind, get your traps out of your ears. And now I want you to try 3 more diaphragm breaths. And you're trying to move those hands out. Here we go. Just like that. All right, so I will let you in on a little tip. If you are somebody that's pregnant or you're working with pregnant women, having them sit on something like a block or a meditation pillow or the gorgeous ball, something a little soft, having them diaphragm breathe and actually like go all the way down, like say, I want you to feel your perineum touch the meditation pillow, touch the block, and then come back up. I love diaphragm breathing after adjusting somebody. So I would set them up in our movement room and say, just light straddle stretch, sit or lie down, whatever's comfortable. But I want you to breathe for 5 minutes after your adjustment. Okay, moving on, because we got to stay on time. The stability breath. The stability breath is a short name for an actually long name, and the long name is task-specific intra-abdominal pressure. Task-specific intra-abdominal pressure. So the breath starts the same, and your inhale and your exhale, or your inhale is going to be the same, your exhale is going to be slightly different. So what I mean by this is your inhale, same. Your diaphragm and your pelvic floor are going to lower and then expand. But on the exhale, your muscles are going to contract around the cylinder, in the cylinder, your abdominal section. They're going to most likely eccentrically contract in order to meet that resistance that was created. You're trying to maintain that expansion that was created. So if you're looking down from a bird's eye view, you breathe this 360-degree circle that expanded. And now you're doing the best you can to maintain that expansion. So without any more cues, I want you to try that for 3 breaths. You're going to inhale the same, but the exhale, you're meeting the resistance. So try that, and I'll demo here. I'll actually roll this down. All right. So that might have felt weird, frustrating. You're like, what the heck is going on? Now I want you to try 3 breaths where you have that in mind. You're maintaining that expansion, but I want you to blow out some candles on a birthday cake. So with each exhale, you're going, but maintaining that expansion too. So try 3 more blowing out birthday candles. You're going to breathe in, expand, and again. And once more. Now, sometimes people start to feel their obliques working, starting to play the game, which is a good thing. Other times people feel a little downward pressure. That's not so good. I want you to shift that energy to that cylinder. If you feel any downward pressure, you're in charge of your breath. You're in charge of that energy. So shift it and make it go 360 degrees instead of down. For the next set, I want you to think about, and I'm going to turn this way, spreading these muscles, these erector spinae muscles along your spine, your low back. I want you to think about spreading those on your exhale. This is a cue I love, especially for those that have extension compression strategy. Lots of CrossFitters. Yeah, try it. All right, so you got 3 breaths. You're going to breathe in the same and then spread and maintain that expansion on your exhale. I'm actually going to turn this way. There we go. Okay, so sometimes the feedback I hear from that one is that, especially if somebody's on the table or they're seated, you start to see the erector spinae muscles go flush or relax a little bit, which is a brilliant thing. So that's a really good cue I like to use. There's a whole bag of cues, and some cues may work for others, some cues may not work for you. Pick and choose what works for you, leave the rest on the table. Totally fine. The last thing I'll say about stability breath is, yes, it is that breath that you're bracing, and we need to be able to brace. Is that breath in which, okay, if somebody were to come up and punch you in the stomach, you're inhaling, and then you almost hold your breath, but we're not holding our breath because this is not a max effort anything today. But you're meeting the resistance. And we have to, in order to have a strong and dynamic core, you need 2 things. You need the task-specific intra-abdominal pressure, and you need all the muscles in and around the cylinder playing the game. You can't just have muscle activation and hope for a strong and dynamic core. If you cannot manage your own internal pressure system, you will have injury, you will have aches and pains, you will have issues, you will have obstacles, because the core is everything. This is where the power starts with. This is where the power is absorbed, transferred, and we have to have this internal pressure system working optimally so that we can protect the disc in our spine, our spinal cord, and all these big, like, beautiful organs inside of here. That's the purpose of internal pressure. So let's move on. We're going to go straight into happy baby. So if you, like, I was somebody that was able to lay on my back all through pregnancy, but if you are not, this is where we go to the wall, and you would find that almost same happy baby position. Maybe it's there, maybe it's here. And we're going to diaphragm breathe in happy baby. So one way to get down is on your elbow, right? And then find your happy baby. So I'm going to talk you through this, and then I'm going to give you some time. You want your entire spine to be on the ground. And ideally, you can grab your feet, your shins, or the back of your legs, whatever is comfortable, in order for the entire spine to be on the ground. And you're almost making a double chin. So we have found our spinal neutral, just like we did for breathing, but now we're in that happy baby position. So the position is the only thing that's changed. And now I'm going to take 3 diaphragm breaths, and I want you to try it too. So I'm going to do 3. I want you to try it. Try 3 breaths, and you should feel your breath moving along the mat underneath you, basically. And like I said, on the exhale, it should feel nice, kind of like massaging those erector spinae muscles. Be sure to make that double chin, relax your face. And when we're diaphragm breathing, ideally in through the nose, out through the nose or the mouth. Okay. Looking good, Jackie. All right. We're going to move on. So happy baby is a pose. That's why we diaphragm breathe inside of it. Now we're going to go on to the dead bug. I almost said bird dog. Y'all, 13 years later, or however many years I've been doing this, I still mess up words. Dead bug. So this position, this movement has been around forever. It's one of the greatest core things. And you see your baby do this. This is like one of the first things they do, right? They're laying on the ground and they're starting to move. Their hands and feet are in there and they're starting to move their thumbs inside and outside of their fists. This is basically the dead bug. They're learning to stabilize in the sagittal plane. This is the very beginning of stabilization in that sagittal plane, which is super cool. Now, how we do our dead bug is a little different. Your feet are going to be in the air, and then you're going to externally rotate your knees to take the pressure off the hip flexors. Hands are going to be in the air, slight bend in the knees, slight bend in the elbows, and then get those traps and shoulders out of your ears. So it's almost like you're holding a big physio ball. Sometimes this is enough, especially early postpartum. This would be now a pose, and we would diaphragm breathe in this. Now, if I'm going to do a few reps, I'm going to do 4 total, 2 on each side. Then I'm going to inhale and move on the exhale. This is what that looks like. So 4 reps, you try it on your own, and I'm going to tell you a few more things while you're practicing. Okay, starting position, act like you have a ball. You're holding a big physio ball. Second thing is only go as far as you can maintain contact with the ground. That is your earned range of motion. The other thing, if you're pregnant, we can take, and you're not comfortable on your back, again, sit on the wall, make sure you have full contact, and you're going to move like this. Same breath, same reps, everything. You can also, if it's too much, maybe we're early postpartum, we can always put our feet up on something and move just the hands from here. Our goal is to maintain that neutral spine throughout the entire movement and to keep breathing. Now, if I'm doing this and I start to, you see how I lose contact with the ground, there's that space, I'm no longer smushing the bugs underneath, then I've gone too far. I need to come back to where my earned range of motion is. And that's okay. The movement's coming from the hips, from the shoulder joints, and I go as far as my body gives me permission today. We work with the body we have today. Postpartum, you can be so creative with this. Sometimes I would just hold the position. Sometimes I would just move an arm, move a leg, boom. Instead of moving opposite arm and leg, I would do the same. And now you're starting to get really crazy. I would also hold a big physio ball here and just breathe. You know, inside of the BIRTHFIT Basics programs we have, especially postpartum, we say go through the whole postpartum program and then come back and do it with like 2.5 pound weights or little wrist or ankle weights, whatever you want to challenge yourself with. That's the dead bug. All right, so now we're going to move on and we're going to go to the side plank options because I always get questions on this. So I just want to throw this out there, like, okay, your baby's moving and now they start to roll. So literally you can practice rolling if you want. Like, we didn't throw this in there in the BIRTHFIT Basics, but if you want to practice rolling, make sure you're rolling as one unit like a rotisserie chicken and then coming up to your elbow. So for these side plank options, you want your elbow to be under your shoulder. You want your hip and your elbow in alignment when your hips stacked. And now we're going to find that neutral posture at an angle, about a 45-degree angle from the ground. The other thing I want you to make sure of is you're not sinking into this shoulder. You're actively pressing that elbow into the ground with a relaxed hand. Now, this is one of the first poses we practice postpartum. And now, if you're just sitting here with me, you can start to feel, okay, yeah, there's some stabilization happening on an IPSY side, same side. So that's what we're working on, IPSY side stabilization. Now, I'm going to do 3 reps of just a hip drive. So I'm going to put my hand here, breathe in, exhale. There's 1. So that would be level 1 of that. Level 2, we're going to open up for a clamshell. And down. All right, I'm going to switch sides for the last 3. But remember, elbow, hip, and alignment. So now this is where we involve the kick through. We're going to inhale, exhale. So I'm inhaling, expanding my rib cage, and then on the exhale, I move. So it's a long exhale, and I'm lightly tapping my foot here. This whole situation is stabilizing, and then I come down. So I want you to try 3 reps of your choice on your side. If you're super fast, you can try them on all sides. The side plank options, and I'm going to talk while hopefully you're moving, it is IPSY side stabilization. So we're starting to stabilize along the same side, meaning shoulder, hip, all that. We haven't crossed the body yet because the baby, your baby, we as small humans haven't crossed midline yet. Crazy, huh? And now we're starting to explore different planes of motion because we rolled, right? Just some fun food for thought. Those are the 3 main options we do here at BIRTHFIT. But as y'all know, maybe you're working with a woman for life. Maybe you're a coach and you've worked with her pre-pregnancy, you've taken her through pregnancy, now postpartum. Obviously, you can evolve the side plank. Once she's mastered those, go up to the elbow. You can also do a little kick there. You can also go up to your hand, right? This is like a big deal in yoga. The other thing, Copenhagen. I don't think I have anything in here to do it on, but Copenhagen planks where you put your foot up on something, and that bottom leg is hanging out. That would be like the most elite version of that. So just know there's plenty of options there in the side plank world. But we do the hip drive, the clamshell, and then the kick through. Cool. Okay. Moving on. So I'm going to switch sides so I kind of stay balanced. Once the baby's rolled over, now they push up to sit. So I want you to hang out here. Put your legs in like this shin box 90-90, but you're still in your elbow. Push that elbow through the ground, and I just want you to use that hand. Play with that. That's challenging, right? Just think about it, and you'll find asymmetries side to side. So try it on the other side. I said I was going to go to that side, but so when I was in my 3rd trimester, this is one of the core exercises I would do to warm up. Then babies sitting in a high oblique sit. Once they're vertical, I call this vertical, they can start to reach for things. Now we're starting to get crazy. Now we're starting to cross midline. The world, like we're looking at the world through a different lens. We're not laying down, looking up or around. Like now we're looking straight on, which is wild. So this is a movement, a pose called the high oblique sit. And our feet are in this shin box space. We're on this hand, but we're not sinking into the shoulder. We're actively pressing in through that hand. And we're finding that neutral spine as best we can. And we're diaphragm breathing in this pose. Take 3 breaths. And then I want you to switch sides because the world is our oyster in this position, really. Now, another thing I would do pregnant, let's pretend like this is a kettlebell. I would hold a kettlebell right here and breathe. So now I'm challenging my system with a load right here. You can also attach a band to a pole to try to play with that rotation, anti-rotation. Okay, now shin box. If you've never done shin box, start with your hands behind you. Try to keep your feet on the ground and just lift your knees to roll to the other side. It should feel pretty good. A little juiciness for the hips. Just go back and forth. And when you feel comfortable, the goal would be to try to maintain that neutral spine and breathing as you flow through a little shin box flow. And yes, you're naturally going to move a little bit. You saw I was like inching forward. And then you could end up here, which is great. Or end up back on one side. And this is why we do this for postpartum. Maybe you're stuck on the ground with a baby. Pretend like this is baby. I want you to lean forward, press, and come up. So give yourself a little lean forward, press through that front knee, and come up. Heck yeah. Nailed it, Jackie. And then switch sides. Try it on the other side. You're definitely going to have a stronger side. I do. Lean forward. Press through that knee. Boom. And as you probably guessed it, you can bring one leg around to stand. If you need to put an arm down, boom, stand from there. But that is why we do the shin box and the shin box to lunge to stand. Because we want you to get up from the floor with your baby. All right, we're moving on. Told y'all we're gonna zip through this. We gotta stay on time. All right, we're gonna roll over to a tabletop position. Tabletop is one of the best positions for pregnancy, postpartum, all of it. You want your hands, your wrists right under your shoulders, slight bend in your elbows, knees right under your hips, and your big toes can come together. That's totally fine. And then find your neutral spine, double chin, elongate your spine, and take 3 breaths. 3 diaphragm breaths. Now, try it. This is where baby has to stabilize. This is where a small human has to stabilize within themselves, within the 3D, 5D world, whatever it is you call it. But they no longer have the ground to stabilize with. Their spine is in the air, right? So it's just the opposite of dead bug. Now from here, we do something called segmental cat-cow, where we segment the spine and we try to find awareness in each area of the spine. I'm going to do 2 reps and then I'm going to turn it over to you and talk you through it. So it looks like this, starting with my tailbone. Okay. So as you can tell, the cat and the cow are the same thing they would be in any yoga class. However, we're starting each part of that movement, each cow, each cat with movement at our sacrum. So we start, for the cat, tucking, rounding, everything. And at the end, I'm a cat here and I'm actively pushing the ground away with my hands, actively pushing the ground away with my knees, my legs, and rounding as much as I can. With the cow, my heart space is open. I'm spreading my collarbones. This is the only movement where we say, just breathe. However you can, get through it, just breathe. Because we want it to be long and intentional. The slower that movement is, the better. All right, so hopefully you've practiced that. We're going to move on to bird dog. So bird dog, very similar to dead bug. I'm going to do 2 reps on each side, and then I'm going to talk you through it. So here we go. All right. So bird dog, opposite arm, opposite leg, reaching, creating that beautiful line. This is not one of those, and I see this all over the internet, hopefully you're practicing, where there's like that dip in the spine. I want you to pretend like there is a hot cup of coffee on the back of your spine and you don't want to spill it. This is as far as my leg needs to go in that space. There's none of this. It's this. And again, we're moving from the hips and the shoulder joints. The other thing I'll say there is, what was I going to say? That'll be good. That's good with that. That's perfect. You're still moving within your earned range of motion. And this is the other thing I was going to say. You want to, if this is all you move at first, like I was just testing the limits early postpartum, and that's all I did. Wherever you pick your hand or your leg up from, you set it right back down in the same spot. Even if that's your range of motion. This is the beginning of crawling, right? So now we're starting to play with these cross body fascial trains, anatomy trains. Cool. Now we're gonna go. What direction? Okay, so I want to show you all this. From tabletop, we can curl our toes and lift 2 inches off the ground. Now find that neutral spine and breathe 5 breaths. This is a nice little core work. And this is called low bear. And then set your knees down. That's a great option to continue to do during pregnancy and to start to bring fire back to the core postpartum. Now, high bear is the one we prioritize more during pregnancy, especially for baby's positioning. And then high bear is great for any kind of pelvic floor dysfunction, such as prolapse or urinary incontinence. And high bear is where the pelvis is higher than the rib cage. So we're going to start in the same position, tabletop. Then we're going to curl our toes, lift our knees, and almost as if there's a belt here and somebody's pulling us back from our sacrum or that belt, we're going to get into that high bear position. And when I'm in this high bear position, I'm going to make a double chin. I'm going to find my spinal neutral as best as possible. Yeah. And I want to check in. I want about 60%, just over half of the weight in my legs and the other bit in my hands and shoulders and arms. And then I'm going to diaphragm breathe. And then I come back down, sit on my booty. Now, if you're doing that in pregnancy, always come back vertical. Always come back vertical first or after. And that's just to integrate that movement, integrate that pose, allow the ligaments to come back into the space, baby to get back in that space. Breathe, relax, nourish your nervous system. All right, so that's high bear. Now, as I said, we're only limited by our creativity, right? So you can use all of these inside workouts. Like I would do some lateral stuff with the low bear crawling. You can also do high bear crawling. So have fun with it. As you can see, when you're really intentional with this stuff, you start to break a sweat. I'm already there. All right, so we're going to finish up with almost time. There's a movement called tripod, and I'll come back to this question, this statement. There's a movement called tripod, and then there's a squat. So tripod, I want to point out, we start in the same tabletop position. Everything else stays the same, but you're going to move one leg to have that foot meet your hand. So I find my spinal neutral, and I'm going to move my left leg. Right, so I move my left leg. For me, my compensation pattern is to round my back. Then I'm going to inch my leg forward until I have that nice 90-degree angle, and then I'm going to reestablish that spinal neutral, and I'm pulling this femur back into the hip joint. And this is a pose, so you just breathe here. And then once you're done, that's the movement part of this. You bring your leg back to where you got it. Other side, boom. See, spinal neutral, stays, as straight and intentional, as neutral as possible in this. And then bring it back to where you got it. Tripod is great for hip stuff. And then also, let's say you're in a workout. Hello. Press from here. You can breathe in an EMOM. You got odd minute, you're breathing. Other side, then add some pressing. Totally fine. All right, so squatting. Yes, squatting is wonderful. It's like the king of kings. You can get into that a number of ways. So let's say we're in high bear, right? You can walk your hands back and sit in the bottom of a squat. Some of us, like myself, will be working on their squat mobility for the rest of their time here on earth. So the goal would be to get your heels down on the ground and that spinal neutral. So I really feel this in my mid back. And then you stand from there. Squat. Another way to get in this is from, we're in the tabletop, bring your foot around, bring another foot around, and pull yourself down in the bottom of a squat. So try a few of those. The other thing I'll say is if you're working with somebody or you're tight like me in your ankles, where you taped your ankles most of your life, you got a tight mid back, range of motion is going to be an issue. Maybe set a little plate or use something under the heels to help somebody find that spinal neutral in order to really open up the diaphragm and pelvic floor range of motion. Cool? Okay. I totally get the stability breath and it makes sense. Why do pelvic floor PTs teach you to basically do a Kegel on the exhale? I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that. She says, why do pelvic floor PTs teach you to basically do a Kegel on the exhale as you bring your belly button up and in? You know, I'm going to raise this so we can chat a little bit. With all things, with all departments in life, you know, like nutrition, whatever, there's misconceptions that get started. And I think it started from an aesthetic goal of sucking your belly button in, you know, to make your waist smaller, cinching it. And, you know, the fitness world actually hasn't been around that long, if you think about it. But, you know, toning is a big word, which bothers me as a chiropractor. I don't know if anybody else, because tone has to do with sound and vibration. So if we go vibration within the muscle or the group of muscle, that I can get on board with that. But toning and concentrically contracting a muscle seem to go together in the fitness world. I wish I had a good answer for you. I don't know why. Just, it's annoying. Yes. There are wonderful PTs out there that get the breathing thing, and they will do, like, a lot of pelvic floor PTs do internal exams, and the really good ones will do a pelvic floor exam, supine and standing, or some sort of weight bearing if there's, you know, some big issues going on. And I think that's really great. I was taught that the pelvic floor needs to move in tandem with the diaphragm, and that cue could be moving the pelvic floor superiorly with the diaphragm on the exhale. Yeah, that's right, Emily. Let me read that again. The diaphragm and the pelvic floor always work together. The pelvic floor never works in isolation. So if we're talking about the regular diaphragm breath, you inhale, everything lowers and expands. And on the exhale, everything naturally returns back to neutral. So the pelvic floor and diaphragm are going to move superiorly, naturally, without any force. So yeah, that makes sense, Emily. Cool. What other questions do y'all have? We zoomed through the basics, so I want you to watch this video again. Go to the videos on YouTube. The only things we did not hit were the range of motion ones, and there's 3 of them. There's the neck range of motion, the shoulder range of motion, and the hip range of motion. And I'm going to touch on the shoulder range of motion right now, because you're moving from your shoulder joint. Everything else is nice and still in that spinal neutral position. And you're going to start acting like you're serving a pie or a piece of pizza with your palm up. And when you hit a brick wall, here's my palm up, you're going to turn everything and then try to keep going in that direction. And then, okay, so now I'm here. You're going to come back the same way you went, and then turn it over when you hit that brick wall. And here. So that's your homework, is to do the shoulder, hip joint, and neck range of motion. And those are in the same category as segmental cat cow, where you want them to be nice and slow and intentional. They're like moving and grooving and lubricating for the joints. They're really great. Oh, the last thing I want to say before I pull up this supplement list I want to share with y'all is so BirthFit is in season for the motherhood transition, right? Pregnancy, postpartum, maybe preconception, maybe a little bit past the first year postpartum, but we're in season postpartum we're in season for the motherhood transition. This is why we prioritize the neutral spine. Life does not happen in the neutral spine. And me at 21 months postpartum, I'm not training just in the neutral spine. I'm training all sorts of ways. But this is where we have to rehab from. This is where we need to prehab from. And back in my day when I was a sports chiropractor, no matter what the injury was, whether it's ACL, Achilles, greatest soccer player on earth, you always go back to the most capable, I would say, developmental milestone that that athlete can do optimally. And usually it was going all the way back down to breath, all the way back down to breathing in the sagittal plane. It doesn't take forever, but it's a nice reset. And as women, we get this opportunity to reset, to recalibrate in the postpartum phase, on the postpartum chapter. How lucky are we? I think it's amazing. All right. I'm going to share a screen with y'all because this is promised. And by all means, throw some questions in the chat box if you got them. But I want to share these products we love. And I had my wonderful admin team put this together because I get questions about supplements and products all the time, but I'm not in the camp of general blanket recommendations. You know, especially if you're in the season of trying to conceive, I want you to do some labs. I want you to do HTMA. I want you to work with somebody to specifically build your own prenatal. I don't love a lot of prenatals out there. I built my own. And if you want to go into this more, there's a webinar on in our shop under digital goods, the preconception pop-up that I did last year. And I think it's absolutely still relevant. But okay, so I say that I want you to be specific with supplements. I want you to, have a tailored approach. And here are some supplements that are kind of universal that I think everybody would do some good with them. Okay, we have Adapt Naturals. This company is newer in the sense of, I think they've only been around a year or two, but Chris Kresser is the brains behind this, and I freaking love these products. Omegas. I think every woman, man on earth, every woman trying to conceive in their motherhood chapter needs to be on prenatals, omegas within their build your own prenatal. I was even part of making a omega way back in the day, and the Adapt Naturals omegas are my favorite ever. They're just wonderful. If you want to use the code BIRTHFIT, it gets you 10% off of the subscription. And I'm definitely on that subscription life because need them. My husband steals them all the time. He loves them. So omegas are clutch for conceiving. They're also super clutch for postpartum. Sometimes when mood swings are happening and that postpartum, doesn't hurt to do an extra dose of omegas. Bubs Natural has the collagen I love. And if you think about it, the amniotic sac is collagen, kind of cool. They give us a nice little discount if you use that phrase right there, B exclamation community. Cured Nutrition is the CBD gummies that I love. Um, I love these products, and I think I'm not somebody, so I'll say this, I'm not somebody that consumes alcohol. I did in my college years. My liver's probably still healing from that. I went to Texas A&M, Gig'em, and it was definitely, another education to learn how to chug beer. But I love CBD to help relax, kind of take the edge off if I'm feeling a little anxious. Okay, I'm going to go through the protein powders because we got Equip, Heart and Soil has a protein powder, and where'd it go? Noble Origins is a protein powder. This is basically an organ complex collagen colostrum powder. I took this with my shakes during pregnancy. It's awesome. It's very convenient, especially on the road. Heart and Soil has a great protein powder, and Equip has a great protein powder. It's honestly whatever your preference is. Heart and Soil gives you 10% off. B Community for Equip gets you 15% off. And then you get 5% off this one. This one's a little more, let's say, bougie, but if like look at all the different stuff in it. And this is what I would travel with. This I would bring it to the office. It would be on the go. So those are the protein powders. This should say Be Fertile, BEFRTIL. And this is a new, I'll call it prenatal, but it's not really a prenatal. They're whole food vitamins, and they have a prenatal package with an organ complex, zinc, and a vitamin C, which I think is like, those are kind of like absolutely necessary for the conception chapter. And it was started by a mom. I love it. She also gives us a little discount if you use the code BIRTHFIT. I know for sure because somebody just did it. Heart and Soil, we just talked about their protein powder. They have organ supplements, good stuff. Ion is something I use for gut support. I've used this for years, at least 8 years. And now I give Vera a squirt of it every day. It's lovely. Zach Bush, if you know who he is, he's behind this product. Element is still a great option for electrolytes. I think you get a free sample pack or some sort of discount if you use our link here. Naturally Nourished is a new affiliate of ours, and I love these women, Allie and Becky. I know them in person. They're both moms. Becky's done the BIRTHFIT programs. They've really upped their game in the supplement department. They have a protein powder, which I just forgot to mention, that we keep in rotation. They have a great collagen that we keep in rotation. And then one of my favorite products from them is called Cellular Antiox. And I keep that stocked in case me or my husband is feeling under the weather, sick, anything like that. It's got glutathione, NAC. It's a really great product. Okay, Rosita is an awesome cod liver oil. I think you can't go wrong with cod liver oil or omegas. Like you kind of do one or the other. They have a liquid and capsules. They're really a top-notch company. Subluna is my favorite. They're kind of different from everything else. They're like more herbal. They have right here, great detox and chill coffee alternative. There's also another coffee alternative on here, but they also have gummies for little kiddos. They've got 4 different types of gummies. One is more of an organ complex. One is like a detox. I forget the other 2, but this company is awesome. They're very small business. Go support them. Here's the other coffee alternative brand. So I rotate between Kamana, Subluna, and then like a beef broth in the mornings. It's great stuff. Paleo Valley has really yummy meat sticks. We keep them in stock in our snack drawer, snack cabinet. And y'all, I started wearing makeup again because of this company, Araza. And I actually feel like it's moisturizing my skin. I love their lip gloss. It's really great. in the skin department, Primally Pure, still obsessed with their products. Their baby balm, I put it on my face. I put it all over Vera. They have really great products. And I know they just, like, if you're into sunscreen, they just came out with a mineral-based sunscreen, which is great. Artie Pop, the carrier, I love. It's a little pricey, but y'all, I still wear Vera in it sometimes, and she's 21 months. Crazy. Born Primitive has some maternity shorts, leggings, tops. Oh, this is one of their tops. See how this was a really baggy belly top. And then the last things here are the Committed HP band. It is a nice, hip band, exercise band, take on the road. A Somavedic is an EMF harmonizer, neutralizer, and then Temp Drop to help keep track of your cycle. So you should have gotten this. If you haven't, it'll come with the recording. Okay. So those are all the products we love. Thanks for hanging out. I will definitely see y'all in the chats. Reply to the email you get if you have any questions. Hopefully you're sweating like I am just a little bit. And I'll see y'all next month.